Previously, I talked of frogs and change and cheese and the inevitability that secure remote access would happen in an industrial control setting. And I'll link to the video down below. Today, I thought I'd talk about how you achieve that objective. And there's sort of 4 quadrants to that. So there's different approaches that different people use. And by far the most common approach is to put in a VPN of some sort. And the VPN, it's really a way of joining 2 networks that aren't physically co-located, but making them appear as if they were. And there's 2 different types of VPNs. There's person to site and there's site to site. But they effectively achieve the same goal. You get an IP address that's on the same network. You can reach all of the devices. And some of the downsides to the VPN, well, there's a lot. So it's software you have to install on both ends. You have to maintain it, keep it up to date, license it. And it's complicated to hook it up to your identity system for authentication, particularly when you have multiple types of users. If you have an MSP that supports you and a system integrator and a vendor, it's unlikely that you will find a way that makes it work for single sign-on for all. You could create shadow accounts in your directory, but really you create shared accounts for it. And the other downside to the VPN that's kind of big is their network risk becomes your network risk. We saw that happen with the Colonial Pipeline hack a few years ago, where a legitimate service provider with a VPN to the network, something bad happened in their network, it traversed and it caused quite a lot of outage. So the VPN, although a good solution for your IT team that has deep access to everything, it's kind of a terrible thing for task-based workers who need limited access to limited things and who don't necessarily work for you. And the second common approach that we see is what I call jump boxes. So TeamViewer, the various Connect solutions, remote desktop, VNC, things of that nature. And they have some pros and cons as well. So in the way that works is you have a machine that sits on your network all the time, waiting. It's idle when no one's around, and when someone wants to use it, they can sign into it and be as if they were at its keyboard. So whatever software it has installed, they can use. Whatever permissions it has become their permissions. And I think you see where I'm going with this, is there's some downsides to that. So the first is software. When you have kind of expensive software licenses, maybe Rockwell Studio, and you have a bunch of different sites, you end up orphaning those licenses at each site on that machine, rather than a model where the integrator uses it on their own machine remotely like you would in the VPN. The second is you can't have 2 people using it at once because it's only got one console. If you need that, you're going to need a little farm of them. And the third problem is, you got to maintain that machine. You got to keep it up to date and patch it. And the fourth problem that you run into is, well, the user isn't the one accessing your network, that machine is. And all the audit trail is going to say is that machine did it. And it has infinite permissions because it can't really conceive of the idea that one person would log into this and only be allowed to use HMI1, and one person would log into this and only be allowed to do backups. It's sort of an all or nothing deal. But there's 2 other quadrants that I thought I'd talk about today. And the first, I call it the Orchestrated VPN quadrant. And the Orchestrated VPN, you see tools like Tailscale and so on. And what they are is they're a fancy VPN, but it uses magic software to drive it. And as a consequence, it can achieve a better segmentation on the network at the flip side cost of, well, you have to install it on everybody's machine and centrally manage it. And not just everybody's machine, but it's not user to network as in a VPN, but it's actually user to resource. You actually need to install it on each of your resources. And as you might imagine, in an industrial control setting, there really isn't a client to run on the controller of that PLC or that ancient HMI, OIT, IPC type acronym. And so as a consequence, you can't use it. It's designed for putting on each device you reach, so it doesn't really apply. And then the last quadrant, which is the one that I'm a big fan of, is the Identity Aware Proxy. And the way the Identity Aware Proxy works is it creates a facade externally as if each resource was on the public internet. But before it allows you to talk to it, it confirms who you are. You authenticate with single sign-on and multi-factor. So I know who you are, and from that I can figure out what you're allowed to do on what, and from that I can figure out which things to show you. And the other nice thing about the Identity Aware Proxy is you don't need any configuration in the network. All your devices stay the same. You're able to use them whether you're on-site or remote, and they work the same way. There's no reconfiguration, there's no change, there's no resubnetting, etc. So it's a lot easier to deploy. But it has other benefits as well. You get a much greater audit trail, you get fine-grained authorization, but you also get fine-grained audit. You'll know who did what when, and you'll be able to control it. And you also get the benefit that there's no client needed. The user uses it via browser, so you don't have to worry about managing software on their device. So they get single sign-on with their identity provider, whether they're Jane at your company or Joe at his company. They get the simplicity of being able to use a tablet or a phone or a laptop. They get the simplicity of not having to remember any new approach, but you also get the benefit of being able to run the licensed software, your Rockwell Studio, remotely, and not having the licenses stranded. You don't have the downside of single session like you would with the TeamViewer. You don't have to worry about, there's no audit trail like the VPN or the TeamViewer. You know exactly who did what. So it's faster, it's better, it's cheaper, and it's really the only approach, in my opinion, that you should be looking at today. Coincidentally, the industry calls this zero trust. So the idea is permissions are done on a per person, per resource pair. Doing that in an Identity Aware Proxy means you don't have to put a client on the end device on either side. You don't have to put a client on the PLC, which wouldn't be possible. And you just get everything. It's simple to deploy, more secure, simple to use. If you want to know more, reach out, info@agilicus.com, or check out our website. My name is Don Bowman. My company is Agilicus. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.